The space station called Harmony's Reach was a peaceful place. For 300 years, it had served as a meeting point for many alien species. Diplomats came here to talk. Scientists came here to share knowledge. Traders came here to do business. The station floated in the quiet darkness between stars, and nothing ever went wrong. Until today. In the medical wing, alarms were screaming. Red lights flashed on the walls. Staff members ran through the corridors with fear on their faces. Something was happening in Observation Room 7, and nobody knew how to stop it. Ambassador Corvan walked quickly toward the room. He was tall, almost 3 meters high, and his body was covered in dark green scales. His species, the Tauron, were known for staying calm in difficult situations. But even Corvan felt worried as he heard the sounds coming from behind the thick metal door. Crashing, snarling, the high-pitched cry of something in terrible pain. Dr. Thessa met him outside the door. She was a Myrlian, a species with 4 arms and soft blue skin. Her large black eyes looked tired and scared. "Ambassador," she said, "I do not know what else to do." "Show me," Corvan replied. Thessa touched a panel on the wall. A window appeared in the door, made of special glass that could survive almost anything. Corvan looked through it, and his scales changed color slightly. Even he was surprised by what he saw. Inside the room, a creature was destroying everything. It was about the size of a large earth dog, but it looked nothing like any dog. Its body was covered in fur that shifted between silver and black. 6 eyes glowed red on its face. Its claws were long and sharp, cutting through metal like paper, and all across its body strange lights pulsed under the skin, flashing bright colors of warning. It was a Velkari cub. Corvan knew about the Velkari. Everyone in the galaxy knew about them. They were one of the most dangerous species in known space. Adult Velkari were the size of elephants, with strength that could tear apart starships. They were intelligent, proud, and extremely protective of their young. "How did this happen?" Corvan asked. Thessa explained quickly. A cargo ship had suffered an accident near the station 2 days ago. There had been an explosion in the engine room. Most of the crew survived, but 1 passenger did not make it. The Velkari mother. She had been traveling with her cub to a new world. The family was moving to join other Velkari in a distant colony, but the explosion killed the mother instantly. The cub survived, but it was alone now, scared, confused, and very, very dangerous. "We brought it here to help it," Thessa said. "We thought we could calm it down. We thought we could save it." And Corvan asked. "It has not eaten in 4 days. It has not slept. It attacks everything that moves. We have tried everything, Ambassador, everything." Corvan watched the cub throw itself against the wall. The wall was reinforced with special metal designed to contain even the strongest creatures. But the cub kept hitting it anyway, again and again. The sounds were terrible. "What methods have you attempted?" Corvan asked. Thessa pulled up a list on her data pad. It was long, very long. They had tried sedation drugs, 7 different kinds. The cub's body burned through them in minutes. They had tried calming sounds, frequencies designed to relax most species. The cub screamed louder. They had tried pheromone therapy, releasing chemicals that should make any mammal feel safe. The cub destroyed the machines producing them. They had called in a mindweaver, a being who could project peaceful thoughts directly into another creature's brain. The mindweaver ran away after 30 seconds, saying the cub's mind was like a storm of fire. They had adjusted the temperature. They had changed the lighting. They had offered 17 different types of food. Nothing worked. "The cub is dying," Thessa said quietly. "Not from injury, not from illness, from fear. Its body cannot survive this level of stress much longer. If we cannot calm it within the next 2 days, it will die." Corvan closed his eyes. This was not just a tragedy for one small creature. This was a diplomatic disaster. The Velkari matriarchy would want answers. They would want to know why their child died on a station that was supposed to be safe. Wars had started over less. "There must be something," Corvan said. "There is one option," Thessa replied. Her voice was hesitant, but it is unusual. "Tell me." "There is a human on the station." Corvan's scales shifted again. Humans. He had heard many strange stories about them. They came from a small planet called Earth, far away on the edge of the galaxy. They were not the strongest species. They were not the smartest. They were not the fastest or the most advanced. But humans had a reputation. They formed bonds with dangerous creatures. It made no sense. It followed no logic. But across the galaxy, there were stories of humans befriending animals that should have killed them. A human on Kepler 7 had tamed a wild thornback, a creature known for eating its own trainers. A human on the Vexian homeworld had made friends with a swarm of hive wasps that usually attacked everything that moved. Nobody understood why humans could do this. Many scientists had tried to study it. They found no special pheromones, no telepathic abilities, no logical explanation at all. Humans just connected with things. "Where is this human?" Corvan asked. "She works in cargo logistics," Thessa said. "Her name is Una. She handles shipping manifests and supply orders. She is not a scientist. She is not trained for this." "But she is human." "Yes." Corvan looked back through the window. The cub had stopped moving for a moment. It sat in the corner, shaking violently. Its 6 eyes stared at nothing. The lights under its skin flickered weakly, like a fire running out of fuel. It looked so small, so scared, so alone. Corvan had children of his own, back on his homeworld. He knew what it meant to be a parent. He knew what it meant to protect the young. And he knew what it felt like to be helpless when a child was suffering. "Bring me this human," he said. "Bring me Una." Thessa nodded and hurried away. Corvan stayed at the window, watching the cub. It had started shaking again, its whole body trembling with fear and exhaustion. He did not know if a human could help. He did not understand how they did what they did. But right now, he was willing to try anything. The cub let out a small cry. It was not a sound of anger or warning. It was the sound of a baby calling for its mother. A mother who would never answer. Corvan placed one scaled hand against the glass. "Hold on, little one," he whispered. "Help is coming." He hoped he was right. Una was having a normal day when everything changed. She sat in her small office in the cargo section of the station. The room was not much bigger than a closet. It had a desk, a chair, and a computer terminal that showed lists of supplies. That was her job. She looked at lists. She checked numbers. She made sure boxes went to the right places. It was boring work, but Una did not mind boring. After everything that had happened in her life, boring felt safe. She was 28 years old and had grown up on Earth in a small town near the mountains. Her family had owned a farm there. Not a big farm, just a small piece of land with some animals. Her grandmother had taught her how to take care of them. Chickens, goats, a few cows, and always stray animals that wandered in from the forest. Her grandmother had a gift with animals. Injured birds would calm down in her hands. Frightened dogs would stop growling and lie at her feet. Once, during a terrible winter, a wild fox had crawled into their barn, half frozen and dying. Most people would have chased it away. Her grandmother wrapped it in blankets and fed it warm milk until it recovered. "Animals know," her grandmother always said. "They know when someone means them no harm. You cannot trick them. You can only be honest." Una had learned those lessons well. But that was a long time ago. Now her grandmother was gone. The farm was sold. Her brother Tiho had moved to the city, and Una had somehow ended up here, on a space station far from Earth, counting boxes for aliens who did not even know her name. She was typing a report when the door to her office opened. A Tauron stood there. He was massive, filling the entire doorway. His green scales shimmered under the office lights. Yuna recognized him immediately. Everyone on the station knew Ambassador Corvan. "Corporal Yuna," he asked. She stood up quickly. "Yes, sir, can I help you?" Corvan stepped into the room. Behind him stood a Meyerlian doctor that Yuna had seen before in the corridors. Both of them looked serious. Both of them looked worried. "I need your help," Corvan said. "There is a situation in the medical wing." Yuna blinked. "Sir, I work in cargo. I move boxes. I do not know anything about medical situations." "This is not about medicine," Corvan said. "This is about something only a human can do." He explained everything: the accident, the orphaned cub, the failed attempts to calm it, the fact that it was dying from fear alone. Yuna listened quietly, her face showing nothing, but inside her heart was beating faster. A Velkari cub. She had never seen a Velkari before. She only knew the stories. They were supposed to be monsters, killing machines, creatures that could destroy entire buildings when they were angry. "Why me?" she asked when Corvan finished. "Because you are human," Corvan said simply. "Your species has abilities that we do not understand. You form connections with dangerous creatures. You calm animals that attack everyone else. I do not know how you do it, but I have seen the reports. It is real." Yuna shook her head slowly. "Ambassador, those stories. They are probably exaggerated. Humans are not magic. We cannot control animals with our minds." "I am not asking you to control it," Corvan said. "I am asking you to try, just try. If you fail, we are no worse than before, but if you succeed," he paused, "you could save an innocent life." Yuna thought about the farm. She thought about her grandmother's hands, gentle and steady, holding frightened creatures until they stopped shaking. She thought about the fox in the barn, its eyes wild with fear, slowly learning to trust. She thought about being alone and scared in a strange place with no one to help. "Show me," she said. They walked to the medical wing together. The corridors were empty. Most staff had been ordered to stay away from Observation Room 7. Yuna could understand why. Even from a distance she could hear the sounds, crashing, crying, the desperate noises of something in pain. Dr. Thessa handed her a data pad with information about Velkari biology. Yuna skimmed through it quickly. 6 eyes that could see in the dark, fur that changed color based on mood, bioluminescent lights under the skin that showed emotional state, claws that could cut through metal. "We will have energy barriers active," Thessa said. "For your protection, the cub cannot reach you through them." Yuna nodded but said nothing. They reached the observation room. Through the window, Yuna saw the creature for the first time. It was smaller than she expected. In the reports, Velkari sounded like giants, but this was just a cub, a baby. It was curled up in the corner now, shaking violently. Its fur had turned almost completely black and the lights under its skin were dim, flickering, fading. "It has been like this for hours," Thessa said. "It is getting weaker." Yuna watched the cub. She did not see a monster. She saw something small and frightened, something that had lost its mother and did not understand why. Something that was surrounded by strange smells and sounds and creatures it had never seen before. "Turn off the barriers," Yuna said quietly. Thessa made a sound of alarm. "What?" "The barriers, turn them off." "Corporal, that is extremely dangerous. The cub has attacked everything that entered the room. It destroyed 3 medical drones. It nearly killed a mindweaver. You cannot go in there unprotected." Yuna turned to face the doctor. "The barriers are part of the problem. They are trapping it, making it feel caged, making the fear worse." "That is speculation," Thessa said. "We have no data to support." "I do not need data," Yuna interrupted. Her voice was calm but firm. "I need you to trust me. Ambassador Corvan, you asked for human instinct. This is what human instinct looks like. It is not logical. It does not follow rules. But it is the only thing I know how to do." Corvan and Thessa looked at each other. A long moment passed. Then Corvan nodded slowly. "Do it," he said to Thessa. "Turn off the barriers." Thessa hesitated, her 4 hands clenching nervously. Then she walked to the control panel and entered a code. The soft hum of the energy barrier stopped. The door to the observation room slid open. Yuna took a deep breath. She thought about her grandmother one more time. She thought about all the frightened animals that had trusted her family over the years. "Animals know," she whispered to herself. "They know when someone means them no harm." She stepped into the room. The cub's head snapped up. 6 red eyes locked onto her. The lights under its skin flared bright with warning. A low growl rumbled from its throat. Yuna did not run. She did not scream. She did not make any sudden movements. Instead, she sat down on the cold metal floor. She made herself small. She looked at the ground instead of staring at the cub. And she waited. Outside, Korvan and Thessa watched through the window. Neither of them spoke. Neither of them breathed. The cub watched Yuna. Yuna sat still. Minutes passed, many minutes. The cub did not attack. The cub did not calm down either. But something had changed, something small, something important. For the first time in 4 days, the creature was not alone in its fear. And sometimes that was enough to start. Yuna sat on the floor for 3 hours. Her legs went numb, her back hurt. The metal floor was cold enough to make her shiver, but she did not move. She did not speak. She just sat there, small and quiet in the corner opposite the Velkari cub. The cub watched her the entire time. At first, its eyes burned with fear and anger. Its claws scraped against the floor, ready to attack. The lights under its skin flashed warning colors, bright pulses of red and orange that meant danger. Every muscle in its body was tight, prepared to fight. But Yuna did nothing. She did not look directly at the cub. She had learned this trick from her grandmother years ago. Direct eye contact could seem threatening to frightened animals. Instead, she looked at the floor, at the walls, at her own hands folded in her lap. She made herself look harmless, small, unimportant. After an hour, the cub stopped growling. After 2 hours, it stopped flashing warning colors. After 3 hours, it lay down on the floor, still watching her, but no longer ready to attack. Outside the observation room, Ambassador Korvan and Dr. Thessa stood in silence. Other staff members had gathered too, watching through the window with wide eyes. Nobody could believe what they were seeing. "She is not doing anything," Thessa whispered. "She is just sitting there." "I know," Korvan replied. "How is this working?" Korvan shook his head slowly. "I do not know, but I am starting to understand why humans confuse so many species in this galaxy." When Yuna finally stood up, the cub's head lifted with alarm. Its eyes tracked her movements carefully, but it did not attack. It did not growl. It just watched. Yuna walked slowly to the door, very slowly, no sudden movements. She kept her body relaxed, her breathing steady, and then she stepped out of the room. The door closed behind her. Thessa rushed over. "Are you injured? Did it touch you? Let me scan you for." "I am fine," Yuna said. Her voice was tired but calm. "The cub did not hurt me." "What did you do?" Korvan asked. Yuna thought about how to explain it. Human instinct was not something you could put into words easily. It was something you felt, something you understood without thinking. "I showed it that I was not a threat," she finally said. "That is all. I gave it time to understand that I would not hurt it." "But our staff members did the same thing," Thessa argued. "They entered the room calmly. They moved slowly. They did not try to harm it. The cub attacked them anyway." "They were still strangers," Yuna said. "Alien strangers, different shapes, different smells. Everything about them said danger to that cub." She paused. "I am different too, but maybe. Humans are different in a way that feels less scary. I do not know why, I just know that it worked." She promised to come back the next day. That night Yuna could not sleep. She lay in her small bed and stared at the ceiling. She kept thinking about the cub. Those 6 red eyes filled with so much fear. the way it shook in the corner, the way it cried out for a mother who would never answer. She knew that feeling, not exactly the same but close enough. After her grandmother died, Yuna had felt lost in the world, alone, scared. It had taken years for that feeling to fade. Some days it still came back. The next morning, she returned to the observation room. The cub was lying in the same spot, but something had changed. Its fur was lighter now, silver instead of black. The warning lights had dimmed to a soft glow. When Yuna entered, it lifted its head and watched her, but there was no growl, no flash of danger colors. Yuna sat down in her corner again, same position, same stillness. But today she tried something new. She started humming. It was an old song her grandmother used to sing, a simple melody, soft and slow. Yuna had no idea if alien creatures could understand music, but she remembered how the animals on the farm had always relaxed when her grandmother sang to them. The cub's ears moved. They were small ears, almost hidden in the fur, but Yuna saw them twitch toward the sound. The creature seemed curious. She kept humming. Minutes passed, then something amazing happened. The cub moved closer. Just a little bit, just a few steps. It was still on the other side of the room, but it had moved toward her for the first time. Yuna's heart jumped, but she did not react. She kept humming, kept staying still. She did not want to scare the creature back into its corner. Outside, Thessa made a small noise of surprise. "It moved," she said to Korvan. The cub moved toward her. Korvan watched with his ancient eyes. He had lived for over 200 years. He had seen many strange things in the galaxy, but this was something new, something he would remember for the rest of his long life. On the third day, Yuna brought food. The station kitchen had prepared special meat for the cub. Velkari ate raw protein, similar to Earth carnivores. Yuna carried a small bowl of it into the observation room. The cub watched her closely. Its nose twitched. For 4 days it had refused to eat anything. The hunger must have been terrible. Yuna placed the bowl on the floor, halfway between herself and the cub. Then she returned to her corner and sat down. The cub stared at the food, then it stared at Yuna, then back at the food. Long minutes passed. Finally, slowly, the cub crept forward. Its movements were careful, ready to run at any moment. It reached the bowl and sniffed the meat. Then it ate. Thessa nearly cried with relief. "It is eating," she said, her voice shaking. "It is finally eating." Yuna felt a warm glow in her chest. This small victory meant everything. A starving creature had chosen to trust her enough to eat. That was not nothing. That was huge. But she knew they were not done yet. The cub was eating, yes. It was calmer, yes. But it was still scared, still alone, still trapped in a strange room on a strange station, surrounded by things it did not understand. Yuna needed to find a way to make it feel safe, really safe. Not just calm enough to eat, but comfortable enough to rest, to heal, to stop being afraid. She thought about this as she walked back to her quarters that evening. She passed through the cargo section, her old workplace, without really seeing it. Her mind was far away, thinking about the cub. Then she tripped. Her foot caught on something in the corridor, and she stumbled forward. She caught herself against the wall and looked down to see what had tripped her. Boxes. Empty shipping containers, stacked in a pile, waiting to be recycled. Most were made of synthetic materials, the standard containers used across the galaxy. But one box was different. It was made of cardboard. Brown, simple, old-fashioned cardboard. It must have come from an Earth shipment. Someone had probably used it to pack personal items and then left it here when they were done. Yuna stared at the box. A strange thought entered her mind. A crazy thought, something so simple that it could not possibly work. But then she remembered something her brother Tiho had once told her. He had a cat back on Earth, a fat orange creature that ignored expensive beds and fancy toys. But give that cat an empty cardboard box and it would be happy for hours, climbing in, hiding, sleeping. Cats loved boxes. Scientists had studied it. Something about the enclosed space made them feel safe, protected, hidden from the world. Yuna picked up the cardboard box and looked at it for a long moment. Could it really be that simple? There was only one way to find out. Yuna walked into the observation room, carrying a cardboard box. Ambassador Corvan and Dr. Thessa watched from the viewing gallery. Their faces showed complete confusion. Over the past few days, they had seen Yuna do many strange things. She had sat in silence for hours. She had hummed strange songs. She had moved slowly and carefully, treating the deadly predator like a frightened puppy. But this was something new. "What is that?" Thessa asked. "It appears to be a container," Corvan said slowly, "made from some kind of organic material." "Paper," Thessa confirmed after checking her data pad. "Pressed plant fiber from Earth. Humans call it cardboard, but why would she bring that into the room?" Corvan had no answer. Inside the observation room, Yuna walked to the center of the floor. The Velkari cub watched her from its corner. It was calmer than before, but still alert, still careful. The lights under its skin pulsed with soft amber colors, showing curiosity mixed with caution. Yuna placed the box on the floor. It was a medium-sized box, open on one side, big enough for the cub to fit inside if it wanted to. She positioned it carefully, with the opening facing the cub. Then she walked back to her usual corner and sat down. The cub's 6 eyes fixed on the strange new object. Its head tilted to the side, the way a dog might look at something it did not understand. It sniffed the air, trying to catch the scent of the box. Minutes passed. The cub stood up. Its movements were slow, careful. One step at a time it crept toward the center of the room, toward the box. Thessa leaned forward. "What is it doing?" "Investigating," Corvan replied quietly. "Let us watch." The cub reached the box and stopped. It circled around it once, then twice. Its nose twitched constantly, taking in the strange earth smell. Cardboard did not exist on other planets. This was something completely new to the creature. It stretched out one paw and touched the box. The cardboard made a soft sound under its claws. The cub jumped back in surprise. Then it moved forward again. This time it pressed its nose against the edge of the box. It pushed gently, testing the material. The box moved slightly on the floor. The cub seemed fascinated. Yuna watched all of this without moving. She kept her breathing steady, her body relaxed. Inside, her heart was pounding with hope. "Please," she thought, "please let this work." The cub walked around to the open side of the box. It looked inside at the empty space. Dark, enclosed, protected. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the cub dove into the box. The movement was so fast that Thessa gasped. 1 second the cub was standing outside, and the next second it had jumped inside, curling its body into the small space. Only its tail stuck out from the opening. Everyone waited, watching, barely breathing. The lights under the cub's skin began to change. The amber colors faded. Soft blues appeared instead, colors that the data pad said meant peace, calm, safety. The cub let out a long breath. Its body relaxed, muscles loosening for the first time in days. Its eyes closed slowly, one pair at a time, until all 6 were shut. It was sleeping. "Impossible," Thessa whispered. But it was not impossible. It was happening right in front of them. The Velkari cub, the creature that had refused to calm down for days, was sleeping peacefully inside a cardboard box. Yuna allowed herself a small smile. She did not know exactly why it worked. Maybe it was the enclosed space, like with cats. Maybe the box felt like a den or a nest. Maybe the cub just needed somewhere to hide from a world that was too big and scary. It did not matter why. It only mattered that it worked. Over the next hour, more staff members gathered at the viewing window. Word spread quickly through the station. The monster had been tamed. The beast was sleeping in a box. Everyone wanted to see it with their own eyes. Korvan stood watching for a long time. His scales kept shifting colors, showing deep emotion. When he finally spoke, his voice was thick with something Yuna did not recognize. "You saved it," he said. "You actually saved it." Yuna shook her head. "It saved itself. I just gave it what it needed." "And what was that?" She thought about the question carefully. A place to feel safe. That is all anyone needs when they are scared. A small space where the world cannot reach them, where they can rest without being afraid. Korvan nodded slowly. "My species builds great fortresses for protection. We surround ourselves with walls and weapons and guards. We think bigger is better, stronger is safer." He looked at the box with something like wonder. "And you give it paper." "Cardboard," Yuna corrected gently. "It is a little stronger than paper." "Still, it is remarkable." The cub slept for 14 hours straight. When it finally woke up, it did not panic. It stretched inside the box, yawned widely, and looked around with calm eyes. The first thing it saw was Yuna, still sitting in her corner, waiting patiently. The cub made a soft sound, not a growl or a warning cry, something gentler, almost like a greeting. Yuna stood up slowly and walked toward the box. The cub watched her but did not run. She knelt down beside it and very carefully extended her hand. The cub sniffed her fingers. Its nose was cold and wet like a dog's nose. It breathed in her scent, learning her, remembering her. Then it pushed its head against her palm. Yuna felt tears sting her eyes. This creature, this supposedly dangerous beast, was asking for comfort, asking for touch, asking for the simple kindness that every young thing needed. She scratched gently behind its ears. The cub made a sound like thunder, a deep rumbling in its chest. At first, Yuna thought it was a growl. Then she realized what it actually was. The cub was purring. "I am going to call you Bomi," she whispered. "It means spring, new beginnings." The cub looked at her with all 6 eyes. It did not understand the words, but it understood the tone. Soft, kind, safe. It pushed its head harder against her hand, wanting more scratches. Yuna laughed softly. Okay, I understand." From that moment on, Bomi would not let Yuna leave. When she tried to go back to her quarters that night, the cub followed her to the door and cried. The sound was so sad, so desperate that Yuna could not walk away. She stayed in the observation room, sleeping on the floor beside the box. When she went to get food, Bomi watched the door constantly, making worried noises until she returned. The cub ate only when Yuna was present. It slept only when she was nearby. "Imprinting," Thessa explained. "The cub has formed a maternal bond with you. It thinks you are its parent now." Yuna looked at the creature that was now following her everywhere, its tail wagging like a happy dog. Is that normal? For a Velkari, no. They usually only bond with their biological mothers. This level of attachment to another species is unheard of. Thessa paused. Then again, everything about this situation is unheard of. Within a week, Bomi had completely transformed. The thin, shaking creature that had been dying of fear was now healthy, energetic, and surprisingly playful. It chased its own tail. It pounced on shadows. It knocked things over and looked guilty afterward. And it loved the box. Every night, Bomi curled up inside the cardboard container, which was now showing signs of wear from constant use. Yuna had to get a new box twice when the old ones fell apart. The station changed too. Staff members who had been terrified of the beast now waved at it in the corridors. Some even brought treats. Bomi, for its part, ignored everyone except Yuna. It tolerated others, but it loved only her. Word spread beyond the station. The story of the human and the box reached news networks across the galaxy. Soon, everyone was talking about the impossible thing that had happened on Harmony's Reach. A human had tamed a Velkari, and all it took was a cardboard box. The delegation arrived 3 weeks later. Yuna watched from the cargo bay as the Velkari ship docked with Harmony's Reach. It was enormous, easily 10 times the size of the station itself. The metal hull was dark and covered in strange patterns that seemed to move in the light. Just looking at it made her feel small. Beside her, Bomi pressed against her leg. The cub had grown in the past weeks, now reaching up to Yuna's waist. It was still small for a Velkari, still very much a child, but it was healthy and strong and completely devoted to the human who had saved its life. "Are you nervous?" Ambassador Corvan asked, standing nearby. "Yes," Yuna admitted. "These are Bomi's people. What if they take her away from me?" Corvan's scales shifted to a gentle color. "That is a possibility. The matriarchy has the right to claim any orphaned cub. They may decide that Bomi belongs with her own kind." Yuna felt her chest tighten. She had known this moment would come. She had tried to prepare herself for it. But the thought of losing Bomi now, after everything they had been through together, was almost too painful to bear. The ship's airlock opened. Velkari walked out. They were massive. Each one stood at least 4 meters tall, with thick fur and powerful bodies that could crush metal. Their 6 eyes glowed with ancient intelligence. These were not cubs. These were fully grown Velkari, the apex predators of the galaxy. Yuna felt Bomi tremble against her leg. The cub had never seen others of its kind before, not since its mother died. The lead Velkari was different from the others. Her fur was silver like moonlight, and she wore a collar of strange crystals around her neck. She moved with the grace of something that had never known fear. This was the matriarch, the leader of all Velkari. She stopped in front of Yuna and looked down at her. Yuna had to bend her neck back to meet those 6 glowing eyes. Her heart was pounding so hard she thought it might burst, but she did not run. She did not look away. "You are the human," the matriarch said. Her voice was deep, like thunder in distant mountains. "Yes," Yuna replied. "My name is Yuna. I am called grandmother by my people, though that is not my name." The matriarch's gaze moved to Bomi, who was trying to hide behind Yuna's legs. "And this is the cub. Her name is Bomi." "You named her." "I did." The matriarch studied Yuna for a long moment. Her expression was impossible to read. Then she made a gesture with one massive paw, and the other Velkari moved back, giving them space. "Walk with me," the matriarch said. "I wish to understand." They walked through the station together, Yuna, Bomi, and the matriarch. Everyone they passed stopped and stared. A human, a Velkari cub, and the leader of one of the most powerful species in the galaxy, walking side by side. The matriarch asked questions, many questions. She asked about the accident, about how Bomi had been found. She asked about the days that followed when every attempt to calm the cub had failed. She asked about Yuna, about her life on Earth, about the farm and the animals and the grandmother who had taught her to care for frightened creatures. And she asked about the box. Yuna explained as best she could. She talked about cats on Earth, about how they loved enclosed spaces. She talked about instinct, about the need for safety, about how sometimes the simplest solutions were the best ones. The matriarch listened to everything. Her 6 eyes never left Yuna's face. When they reached the observation room, Yuna showed her the space where everything had happened. The box was still there, battered and worn, sitting in the corner like an old friend. "This is where she sleeps," Yuna said. "Every night she feels safe there." The matriarch walked to the box and bent down to examine it. Her massive body made the cardboard look like a toy. She reached out one claw and touched the material gently, almost respectfully. "My people build fortresses," the matriarch said. "Great structures of stone and metal designed to protect our young. We believed that size meant safety, strength meant security." She stood up slowly. "And you showed us that a small paper container can do what our fortresses could not." "I did not mean to insult anyone," Yuna said quickly. "I was just trying to help." You did not insult us, you taught us. The matriarch turned to face her. Humans are strange creatures. You are weak. You are small. You have no claws, no armor, no natural weapons. And yet you do things that no other species can do. Yuna did not know how to respond to that. Do you know why you can form bonds with dangerous creatures? The matriarch asked. Yuna shook her head. Neither do we, neither does anyone. It is a mystery that scientists have studied for generations. The matriarch moved closer until she was standing directly in front of Yuna. But I have a theory. What is it? I think it is because you see things differently. When you look at a dangerous creature, you do not see the claws or the teeth or the power. You see the fear underneath, the sadness, the need. The matriarch's voice softened. You saw my grandchild dying of loneliness and you gave her a box, not because it was logical, not because it was scientific, but because you understood what she needed. Bomi had crept out from behind Yuna during this conversation. She was looking up at the matriarch with curious eyes. This was her family, her people. She could sense the connection, even if she did not fully understand it. The matriarch looked at the cub for a long moment. Then she reached down and touched Bomi's head gently with one massive paw. "Hello, little one," she said softly. "I am glad you are alive." Bomi made a small sound, almost like a question. "Yes, I know, the world has been confusing." The matriarch looked at Yuna. "But you found someone to guide you through it." The delegation stayed for 3 days. They examined Bomi. They checked her health. They observed her behavior. They watched how she interacted with Yuna, how she followed the human everywhere, how she slept in the box every night and purred when Yuna scratched her ears. On the final day, the matriarch called a meeting. Yuna stood before a council of Velkari elders. Her knees were shaking, but she kept her back straight. Bomi sat beside her, pressed against her leg as always. "We have reached a decision," the matriarch announced. "The cub will not return with us to the homeworld." Yuna's heart stopped. She did not dare to hope. The bond between this cub and this human is too strong to break. To separate them now would cause great harm to both. The matriarch looked at Yuna with something like respect. "You will keep our grandchild. You will raise her. You will teach her how to be brave and kind and strong." Tears were streaming down Yuna's face now. She could not stop them. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you." "Do not thank me, thank yourself." The matriarch stood tall. "You saved a life when no one else could. You showed courage when others showed fear. You proved that the smallest actions can have the greatest meaning." She paused. "The Velkari matriarchy owes you a debt. If you ever need anything, you have only to ask." The delegation left the next morning. Yuna stood at the viewing window with Bomi beside her, watching the massive ship pull away from the station. The cub made a soft sound, somewhere between curiosity and confusion. "It is okay," Yuna said, scratching behind Bomi's ears. "They will come back to visit. You will see your family again." Bomi looked up at her with 6 trusting eyes. "But for now," Yuna continued, "you have me, and I promise I will take care of you, no matter what happens, no matter how big you get." The cub was already the size of a large dog. According to Dr. Thessa, she would eventually grow to the size of an elephant, maybe bigger. Yuna did not care. She would build a bigger room. She would find bigger boxes. Ambassador Corvan found them still standing at the window an hour later. "The Galactic Council has created a new position," he said. "Xenofauna Relations Division. They want you to lead it." Yuna blinked. "Me, but I just move boxes." "You did more than move boxes. You changed how an entire galaxy thinks about dangerous creatures." Corvan's scales shifted to warm colors. "You showed us that monsters are often just frightened children. That fear can be healed with patience and kindness. That sometimes the answer is not bigger weapons or stronger cages, but smaller spaces and softer hands." Yuna looked down at Bomi. The cub yawned widely, showing rows of sharp teeth that could cut through metal. Then she nuzzled against Yuna's leg and closed her eyes, ready for a nap. Not a monster, never a monster, just a scared little girl who needed love. "Okay," Yuna said finally, "I will do it." She kept the original cardboard box. It was too damaged to use anymore, but she could not throw it away. She had it framed and hung on the wall of her new office, a reminder of where everything began. Sometimes the mightiest solutions are the simplest ones. And sometimes the greatest heroes are the ones who remember to bring a box.